Welcome to Aging Boldfully. My name is Susan Rohrbach. Aging Boldfully is a new show on Franklin TV. It's about living your next chapter outside of your comfort zone, fully embracing the uniqueness of you. Retirement is a great opportunity to redesign our lives. What will our lives look like now that we are the CEO of our own story? We're going to explore major themes that matter most as we enter this new phase of our lives. Themes that include resilience, relevance, physical health, mental well-being, and intentional living. We'll showcase community members that are finding meaning, living with purpose, and overcoming obstacles. So stay tuned. We have a lot of great guests and great discussions coming your way. Before I interview my guest today, let me say one thing about the term aging boldfully. So many people have asked, why are we calling it aging boldfully rather than aging boldly? Boldfully is really a combination of two common words, and for me it means living life fully with courage, no matter where we are on our journey. So, with that, I'm excited to welcome our guest, Steve Sherlock.
Thank you.
Steve, why don't you take the opportunity to introduce yourself, because you have many titles and people know you throughout town, and explain to everyone or tell everyone about your background.
The short story. Well, yeah. Yeah, so Steve Sherlock, we've been here 30-something years. Wife and I have successfully married for 43 years. 2 daughters went through the Franklin schools, out on their own professionally. One happens to be living nearby, so we have our 2 grandchildren nearby, so that's a fun aspect. Along the way, I had a few job changes, and then one company said, hey, why don't you take this opportunity in Massachusetts? So at the time we were living in Jersey. You're going to move us home? Because we grew up in Rhode Island. So sure, yeah, come on. So we got here. Went through a few more job changes, and in the course of those, as the kids were getting, one was out of high school, the other one was finishing high school. I didn't need to be home for the help with the homework, etc. My wife was still teaching, long-time kindergarten teacher at Oak Street. And I was starting hearing about this budget issue. You know, she was getting things less this year, next year, even less, etc. So I started finding out what was going on. I'd go to some meetings, and this was back in 2005, 2006. And I'd go to the meeting, 2-3 hour meeting, read the paper the next day, and ooh, wait a minute, that was like a 5-minute conversation in the 2-hour meeting. Where's the rest of it? Now, cable at that time was broadcasting on the cable, and it was going out. I think it was only the one channel at that time. And they were preparing a DVD to the library 6 months later. So in terms of timely info, no, there wasn't. So coincidentally, in Boston in August 2006, there was an unconference called PodCamp Boston. So I went. It was going to be free in Boston, talking about the new social media tools, blogging, video blogging, podcasting. It's like, okay, I'm there. So I got there, came back with a whole lot of things. And the idea simply that, ooh, this is not that hard. I can do it. Professionally, a lot of the time I was a project manager, so I'd go to a corporate meeting, went to my laptop, be taking notes. So as the meeting broke, I'd send the notes out so that you would remember you took an action and you couldn't forget coming back to the next meeting. Wait a minute, I can do this. Take my laptop, take a modem card, back in those days, because Wi-Fi was not a thing at that time. Hooked the modem card, just sat there in the meetings, typing on a laptop, taking notes, refreshing the page. It's evolved since then, so now I do audio recordings, share the TV recordings, create podcasts to recap the school committee meetings and town council meetings with our council chair, school committee chair. do a preview show with the library and the senior center to find out what's coming up, et cetera. And yeah, I'm doing all that because Franklin matters. Deliberate pun, and having a great time doing that.
So I want to get, you've told me a little bit about the process.
Yep, we teased
already.
a little bit in there.
We
Yep.
teased a little bit in there.
Yep.
I just want to talk about a little bit before we talk about the next step here.
Sure.
About what I think about moving from work life / professional life into, I don't like using the word retirement because clearly you're not tired. You keep going.
No, yeah. Peter Pan was my hero.
Right.
You know, I was a kid who was never going to grow up. So when I did start getting to the retirement age, and I had to start dealing with retirement and then grandfather, and then it's like, wait a minute, these words are hard to come up with.
Right.
It's not part of my vocabulary.
Right. Well, I like talking about it like a redesign or a next chapter or a third chapter.
Yeah.
So I think there are two serious considerations we all have to make when we're approaching the next chapter. One is when, and that's usually tied to finances, right? Which is deeply personal, unique, complicated. That's not something we're going to cover in this on these shows.
Sure.
But it's also what. So what's next? What is it going to look like? How can I find my purpose? How can I find joy?
Right.
And you know, we usually start off with this calendar in our work lives that are highly scheduled. We know where we're going to be pretty much at every moment, to a calendar that's empty. And then, okay, so what do we do, right? And when I think of it in 3 chapters, in the essence of the word responsibility. Yeah. My first chapter, I had 2 people who were responsible for me, my parents, right? Second chapter, I was responsible either for my finances or work or, you know, family, children, etc. And now there's this third one. And the third one, there are some responsibilities, although they are not as significant, but there's more freedom. Okay, so now I get to structure it so that I find my purpose, I find my joy. And before I get to you, I'm going to tell one quick story about me.
Absolutely.
So the story of me is that when first year I retired, I felt like I was running on a hamster wheel, and I would keep myself busy every moment. I had a great career, but I never developed a hobby. I felt like I had the transition was so hard. And then the second year was like crash and burn. Like I spent, I felt like I spent the year on the couch. Like I was so tired. So, and I don't think I've necessarily figured out still, you know, I have a great routine and I love it. I'm not sure I have truly found my purpose. I don't know. Maybe I have. Maybe
the journey never ends in some ways.
So, but you told me about your process, which I never knew because I was on the school committee when you developed Franklin Matters, right? I never knew your professional background. We both grew up in Rhode Island, but we've already figured that out. So I never knew you did put those pieces into place, right? So was that, you know, something you pre-planned, or how did that work?
Yes and no, and I'll go back a little bit further in terms of, certainly as in your phrasing of on the family piece, you know, we lived in Jersey, then Illinois briefly, back to Jersey before coming to Mass. So once the kids started coming along, I was definitely, while work and the 40-hour, 60-hour work week was priority, the second priority was family. So as the kids were growing up, you know, whether it was swim or soccer or whatever sports they were in, I was involved that way. And involved always with that extended family community piece. Always needed to know what was going on. It may come back from my earliest days when I was growing up. My mother and father had a community life. Dad was part of this organization. Mom was part of that. I was the paper boy, so I was delivering the news and always reading the news, so I knew what was going on. and then it evolves, right? The newspapers kind of disappear. And there was an opportunity. So even while I was working, I was trying to do a little bit because, as I said, I didn't have to be home to help the kids. I wasn't doing the school supports anymore. It was beyond that natural stage of life. And then with one job and then another job, as I got to that last one, somebody had called and said, hey, I got this project, you want to do it? It's going to take 3 to 5 years. Well, 3 to 5 years was my radar for retiring anyway. So perfect fit, stayed there the 5 years, and then started talking because we had already built a relationship with TV, and radio had just started coming out in that last couple of years to better coordinate between what I was doing and what Franklin TV was doing. So that when I did retire, ultimately in September 2019, that was deliberately chosen so that I would have October to interview as many of the candidates as I could for the November election, which coincidentally now we're into another biennial election season. So now I don't have to coordinate other things. It's my own schedule. I still have to work around whatever has to happen in the house, keeping the wife happy, keeping the family happy, and, doing some physical exercise and/or walking to bring that rest of the balance around.
Right. Well, I mean, when I was on the school committee, there was such a thing as a newspaper, and I think you've filled that vacuum.
As they started disappearing, because in my first days, there was a reporter sitting next to me, and then they would change frequently, and then they no longer sat there. So,
and now I think a lot of people come to your site for the news.
Sure.
A lot of our younger generation in town also goes to you for the news. So I think it sounds like, even though you didn't really think about it, I think you were putting all these pieces together to get you to the point when now you're, in your third chapter, you've already, built all of this stuff. So it was a very sort of easy.
It was an easy transition
for you.
Right. It was definitely an easy transition. I had two things in mind. Clearly, I was going to be able to do more things because I had more time. I wasn't committed to the work schedule. And then immediately found out when I went to a Board of Assessors meeting, and then found out realistically that only the first 5 or 10 minutes is a public session. The rest of it's an executive session. So I don't need to go back to the Board of Assessors meeting. Don't spend the time to go there for only a 10-minute piece. And then COVID came in 2020, so that kind of took over, and Jamie Helen and I had every 2 weeks practically throughout that first year an update going out to the community, and that on the one hand was necessary because there was so much going on, and it was also, lifelong learn. I'm learning all the time. What's COVID? What's this pandemic? And so, that interest has driven me a lot. And my why when I first started this was, I needed to follow the money. So I followed finance committee, school committee, town council, because that's the money drove the budget. Now that I had more time, let me find out more of, what the quality of life that budget gives us. So I'm now able to, with the extra time, to talk to artists, businessmen, et cetera, to expand upon that. I don't just have to deal with the town government focus pieces.
Right. Oh, that's an interesting point. So are you hiring? I am looking for purpose. I'm kidding.
The studio has gracefully said we could hire you, and I said save the money for somebody who's going to do it behind me.
Right.
The training call has been out. I've been fortunate to get some bites at the apple, so to speak, but circumstances have changed because circumstances do change in people's lives. Somebody came out of school, they wanted to do some sports reporting, and then she got a job in California. Okay. Somebody else wanted to do kind of the building route, and then she got her first child. So, she'll come back maybe in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
If somebody's interested.
So I'm not qualified, is that what you're saying?
it takes interest in first. You got to express an interest.
Okay.
And then we'll provide, with the help of the studio,
so not yet.
the details to be done.
Okay, I got you. So the other concept, which sort of ties into this, is intentional living. I really love this concept because it has meant a great deal to me as I've gotten older. So many years ago, someone told me this exercise, which is if you were to take a measuring tape with numbers on it, and each number represented a year of your life. And let's say you live to 90, let's say, for example, and you step on the age where you currently are. So let's say it's 65. And then you turn around and you look backwards, right? And you see the length of the tape.
Right.
And then you look forwards and you see the length of the tape. And I think it's a bit shocking when you look forward and see, you know, the shortness of it in comparison to what you've already lived.
Right.
So for me, that was shocking and stunning, and trying to say, okay, well, I've got to make the most of every moment. So how am I going to do that? How am I going to live with purpose and joy in, you know, the upcoming years? So when you think of intentionality or living with intention, what do you think about? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I think I break it down relatively into kind of the simple, what am I going to do today that can help me learn, have some fun, and as part of that learning and having some fun, share what I do with somebody else so that they can learn and hopefully have some fun and help their journey. By taking it the day at a time, because it's one thing that we, and I've found this in other conversations as well, we as a community, we as a culture, don't necessarily talk about that future that much. You know, death and dying is something that is not really discussed. Even trying to determine what your legacy is going to be. You know, some people haven't set up wills, should. If you haven't, consider it. We're about to update. I think we did ours, 5-6 years ago. So we need to go back and just make sure we've got things covered and things are checked off, et cetera. But I'm not sure that you really need to have kind of the overarching goal. I'm much more, and maybe it goes back to kind of living at the edge. The learning can be along the edge because that is the learning process. It's natural. You have to go to the edge in order to continue to expand and stretch yourself. The other analogy would be making in athletics. You've got to push. So you do hard, you do easy because the body has to recover. Do hard and easy so the body can recover, and then go hard the next day, et cetera. And still work kind of long term, whether it's, you know, a 5K or a marathon, you're building towards something.
So it sounds to me like you're living intentionally by thinking about pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. That's where you live.
Right.
Because, I mean, look at everything that you've done. I mean, you started with Franklin Matters and you've built it into a lot of different ways that people can get information, and you're still learning.
Sure.
Which is important, right?
And I'm the shy guy who wants to sit behind, not be necessarily in the front,
you don't want to make
controlling conversations. I've said many times in the interviews and other places that no, I totally respect and appreciate all the candidates stepping up. That's not my nature. I can provide advice. I can provide the historical perspective. I'm not a forecaster. I'm a reporter.
Well, my technique is I get out of bed and say, thank God I'm vertical.
That helps. That's a good start.
I wake up with gratefulness is where I start.
Yep.
What else would I like to... So what do you think sort of the theme is for today as we've discussed things? And what would you recommend as if someone's trying to figure out, okay, you know, I don't want to play golf for the rest of my life. How can I build a foundation that allows me to stay purposeful and relevant in the next chapter? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so let me refer to a couple of quotes. Horace Mann, on the one hand, said something, and I'll paraphrase it. Don't be ashamed to die unless you've really won something for. I appreciate his perspective, but I struggle with have won something for humanity. You don't have to go to get the gold medal to be a success. You can do something within yourself that doesn't necessarily mean a gold medal. One of his other quotes is around, learning, and you can't really fulfill yourself until you're educated. So by continuing to be a lifelong learner, I'm successful, because as long as I learn something every day, as long as I have some fun every day, that day's a success.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
The other quote I'll come up with is another Steve Faber. I met him in the social channels. He's got an author. He's a speaker. Do what you love in the service of those who love what you do. And if they happen to pay you for it, all the best.
Yeah, right.
But it's that first part, right? Do what you love. So find out what it is. So maybe it's golf, maybe it's gardening, maybe it's reading. But then in that service part, in the service, so maybe it's golf, maybe you're a teacher of golf. Even if it's reading, sharing what you've read, facilitating a book conversation, right? There's aspects to that. It's not easy. For some, it's a natural thing. For some, you try a few things, and there's nothing wrong with trying. That's part of the learning process.
Well, when I finally got off that couch in the second year, I said to myself, okay, you just have to try whatever comes your way.
Right.
The power of yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to be a trapeze artist. No, it never got to that.
I was never going to be an NBA basketball player. I was tall, but not that tall.
Right. So for me, I just had, for you laid the groundwork. For me, I had to keep trying. And, I think I've done a pretty good job. Okay. So any last thoughts that you might have?
There are today, more so than other days, more opportunities to do, especially on the technical side. I wouldn't necessarily even say social media. Social media in some cases can be kind of a cesspool. I wouldn't necessarily advise. I know I've heard some youngsters saying, I want to be the next TikTok influencer. Excuse me? It's kind of like somebody respectfully wanting to be the next NBA draft number one choice, and the odds are realistically against that. But you can still be an athlete and still improve day after day. You can still be a scholar and still learn something every day. Find out what you want, find out what you're comfortable with, stretch that comfort level.
Right.
And thereby, as you continue to learn, continue to have fun, taking care of your health along the way. Right. So while I'm focused on the physical writing and reporting, and this is in, just the facts, ma'am. These are just the facts. Yeah. I have a separate side of writing, so it allows me to maintain that balance side, so I can still do what I do and hopefully do it well. Right.
So So if you had to give someone advice, I think your advice, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm speaking for you at this point,
that's okay.
Is, just push it a little out of your comfort zone. Just a little bit. Doesn't have to be anything major.
See what works. Yeah. You'll find happiness somewhere along the way, and keep trying.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for asking.
And thank you for tuning in today. My name is Susan Rohrbach. Remember, age is just a number. It's living boldfully that makes life worth living. Make it a great day.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.